Greetings to you, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to session 11 of John's Gospel. I'm Timothy Muse, lead pastor here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Alliance, Ohio. It's a joy to be. I know that this posts in the morning about 10 o'clock, and if you happen to be able to tune in when it posts, then you've got the day ahead of you after this is done. If not, then perhaps maybe you're listening to this at the end of the day or catching it the next day or the day after that even. So whatever God has in store for you, whether it is a restful night's sleep, whether it is dinner, time with family, whether it's going to work or coming home from work, whatever it is, I really do pray that you have a good day, a great day, that God continues to bless you and fill you with all kinds of good things. If this is your first time joining with us, welcome. It's always a pleasure to have new listeners. It's always a pleasure to have people tuning in, catching up. If you are working through this, so if you are enjoying this, if this is having meaning for you, I would invite you to share it. Share it on your Facebook page, share it on your Instagram, share it on whatever social media accounts that you use. Tag me in it, tag the church in it, share the church's Facebook page, follow me on my YouTube page, which is where this is posted, and get it out there. I mean, this is how the Word of God moves. This is how the Word of God gets out there into the world. We would really like to think and hope and look for God doing this big booming event, where he calls everybody or she calls everybody into the fold, into the flock. That's not how God works. God has chosen the foolishness of our proclamation. God has chosen our meager, weak hearts and our frail and broken lives to go out and proclaim that this is the work that God has for us to do. And in the digital age, it's harder in some ways to make connections, but it's so much easier because all we have to do is hit a like button or a share button or what have you, and it goes out onto our social media page. That's how social media works. Social media works exponentially. If you post something, then all of your friends and followers have access to it. And then if I like it and share it, then all of my friends and followers have access to it. So that could be thousands and thousands within a few moments of following, a few moments of clicking. So if this is helpful, if you're getting anything out of this, if you're benefiting from this, clearly you're listening to it online. So subscribe to my YouTube page and share it out there so that people can get it. So if this is your first time listening, then welcome. It's great to have you here. Check out the previous episodes. Check out the previous stuff so you're caught up as to what's going on. If you're continuing to join with us, then welcome back. It's great to have you in this session. As always, I would encourage you to have a Bible open before you so that you can follow along. You can see the words, you can read the words. Again, one of the things I'm a big advocate for is biblical literacy. I do believe that there are many out there who believe or think something is in the Bible, and they don't figure it out. They don't look for it. They don't look to see if it's true that what they're believing is actually there. So biblical literacy is so important when it comes to a life of faith. To know what God has to say, to know what is said in the Bible. And I've said many times, the Bible is our primary text. The Bible is our source text. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of interpretive works out there. There are concordances, and there are interpretations, and there are other things, and the word is just not coming to my brain right now as to what they are, but there's books written about the Bible, written about each book, written about each topic, and they're wonderful and they're beautiful, and I use a lot of them. I use all kinds of different material to help me, but when it comes down to it, the final source text, the primary source text is the Bible. So we read the Bible first and foremost. And so when we study the Bible, we want to have the Bible open in front of us so we can see what is being said, so we can see what is being written, so we can follow along and sometimes maybe even debunk some of what has been put in the Bible that isn't there, and some actually what has been taken out of the Bible, what is actually in there. So it's always important to have the Bible open before you. Again, and biblical dictionaries and concordances and interpretations and all, they're important and they're wonderful, but they're secondary text. They're text written about the text. This is the primary. So that's why we have the book open. That's why we read it. And it doesn't matter, if you have a digital copy open next to you or if you have a printed copy. And one of the joys of this format is that you don't have a video. This is just a static picture. So you can actually just let this play in the background and go ahead and have a Bible open on your screen if you wish to. You don't have to look at me. I'm not out there on the screen like I had in past Bible studies. And you can use whatever translation, whatever language. I mean, if you speak a different language, then use the other language. It doesn't have to be English. I don't speak another language. I only function in one linguistic style. So I can't do this in another language. But whatever interpretation, whatever paraphrase that you use, it's okay. It's okay to have differences. It's okay to embrace some differences. And actually, when you're studying the Bible, it really helps us to study more fully what the Bible is saying. Okay, so we're in chapter 4. We're late in chapter 4 now. Now, chapter 4 is about the woman at the well and Jesus' interaction with the woman at the well. But there's something I want to say that at some point, we're going to see this. We've already seen some things, but we're going to start seeing it more now, and we're going to see it kind of come a little more fully into focus. And that is around the miracles of Jesus. So one of the big things that Jesus does when he's on earth, his earthly ministry, is to perform these miracles. Change the water into wine. He was able to really kind of read into the heart or see into the life of the woman at the well. And we're going to see Jesus encounter and engage more miracles here at the end of chapter 4. Now, the thing about miracles is Jesus does miracles, and he performs them, and the people who experience his miracles, like the people at the wedding who ran out of wine, they experienced something beautiful because they got really good wine to finish out the celebration. But here's the thing. Here's what I want to drill home here for a minute and make sure that we're clear about. Jesus didn't go to the wedding to create the miracle. And Jesus didn't do the miracle because he was concerned about the bride and the groom's standing in society. That's not why Jesus did this. Jesus didn't turn the water into wine because he had sympathy for the bridegroom who ran out of wine. The miracle, though they benefit those around them, those who experience the miracle of Jesus are benefited from it, of course. That's one of the beauties of it. That's one of the reasons why it happens. No, actually, what it is that the miracle is meant to show the power of God in the world and God's presence in the world. Jesus does these supernatural things, and I'm air quoting the word supernatural because when we think about the word supernatural or outside of the natural order, which is what supernatural means, not greater than nature, of course, but outside of the natural order. When Jesus does these supernatural, these outside of the natural order things, he does them. Yes, the people who experience them benefit from them, like the bride and the groom and the people at the wedding. But Jesus didn't do them because he had compassion for the people at the wedding. Jesus saw an opportunity. Jesus saw an opportunity to show the disciples his power over creation. Jesus saw the opportunity to show his power to the disciples, to reveal a glimpse of his true nature to those who follow him. That's the point. That's the point of Jesus turning the water into wine. Yes, the partygoers benefited from it, but the point was to show Jesus' power over creation, to show that God had come into the world. So all of the other miracles that we see, which we're going to experience throughout the Gospel of John and all the other Gospels, they are meant to show Jesus' superiority over the world, over nature, so that those who do follow him, so that those who are a part of him, they can then see how and where and when and what this Jesus is all about. We're going to see that. Now, so Jesus does these miracles. Sorry, I don't want to jump too forward too quickly. I want to make sure I want to make sure that you're very clear with what I'm saying. And I'm very clear with what I'm saying. Jesus does these miracles, and the miracles throughout the scriptures, to show his power and supremacy over creation. Yes, people do benefit from them. And we're going to see people benefiting from them. And it's awesome that they benefit from them. And it's awesome that they have faith because of them. But that is the point of the miracle, is to show the power of Jesus over creation. Because when we extrapolate it out, when we extend it out, and we ask the question here now, 2,000 plus years later, why doesn't the miracles of Jesus happen the same way they did in the New Testament? Why doesn't Jesus' power translate the same way as it did before? Well, the answer is very clear. Because there's 2 billion Christians around the world proclaiming Jesus. We don't need Jesus doing these supernatural things, because Jesus did the greatest of supernatural things in the resurrection. And so we as believers proclaim that. And it is the power of our proclamation, it is our telling the story of what Jesus did, that then propels the ministry forward, that moves the kingdom forward. This is how it's happened for thousands of years, because this is how God has chosen it to happen. Jesus doesn't show up every generation and do these incredible miracles so that people can come to faith. Jesus uses the believer. Jesus uses you and I. Now, do miracles still happen? Absolutely. Absolutely they do. That's irrefutable. But do they happen to the caliber, magnetism, and visualization that we see? No. Because God has his emissaries in the world. God has the avenue of proclamation in the world, and that comes through us as believers. So we replace the miracle. We are the miracle now. The miracle now is not, it's not Jesus healing a blind man or turning water into wine. The miracle now is that you and I, brothers and sisters, in our brokenness, in our weakness, in our pain, in our folly, we choose to make things happen. We choose to make things right. So that's the miracle. We're the miracle in the world today. Jesus doesn't need to turn water into wine. Jesus turns these sinners into saints. Okay? So that I want to make sure that we're clear about that, because we're going to see these miracles and they're going to be profound and powerful, but they're going to have a deeper meaning than just helping someone. Okay, so here we go. This is chapter 4. We're on verse 46. Then that be Jesus, then Jesus came to Cana in Galilee, where he had changed the water into wine. Now there was a loyal officer whose son lay ill in Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, he went and begged him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Then Jesus said to him, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you will not believe." The official said to him, "Sir, come down before my little boy dies." Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." The man believed the word of Jesus, who spoke to him, and started on his way. As he was going down, his slaves met him and told him that his child was alive. So he asked them the hour when he began to recover. And they said to him, "Yesterday at 1 p.m, the fever left him." The father realized that was the hour when Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." So he himself believed, along with his whole household. Now this was the second sign that Jesus did after coming from Judea to Galilee. Okay, so here we have Jesus on the move again. Remember I talked about before, this is a Savior who's on the move. This is not like Herod, who goes to the temple, sits in the throne room, and everybody's got to come to him. And this is not the vision of the Old Testament God that resides in the Holy of Holies. Again, there was a whole social system and a whole religious system built around this temple cult idea that God sat in the Holy of Holies and only one person per month could go into the Holy of Holies and everybody else had to stay outside. And that was the priests, and then everybody else had to stay away from the priests and on down the line until, you never got close to God. You never, ever, ever got close to God. Sometimes I have a vision, a picture of that. If God is trapped in the Holy of Holies and one priest can go in there once a month, you can just imagine how God would just be like, "This is so boring. I created this world and these people just put me in this little box and I'm just sitting here all day." Even he gets a visitor once a day, which I think the priest in charge or the priest chosen for that month got to go in once a day. But still, once a day. It's like, "Oh, here's your ration. Oh, here, hi, God, I'm going to light your incense and I'll be on my way." So we have this picture of Jesus. Jesus is a God on the move. Jesus is a God who's interacting. He's out there, and that's the point. That's the whole, the kingdom of God has come near. Emmanuel, God with us. I mean, all of these statements around Jesus' birth and the incarnation is about God present and God on the move. So earlier in the chapter, we had Jesus in Samaria, where he ran into the woman. He was in Cana of Galilee and basically started heading south towards Jerusalem. And that's where the land of Samaria is. Okay, that's where Jacob's well would be found. And you need to understand something here. So geographically, everything's happening within about an 80-mile north to south trajectory between Jerusalem and Capernaum, maybe 100 miles. So it's not really that big of a land. We're not really talking about a massive amount of distance here. We're talking about like maybe here to Cleveland and back, from Alliance to Cleveland. Is about the distance between these things. Maybe a little bit more, but not much. And they're on foot. They're traveling on foot. They're walking around. So Jesus leaves Cana in Galilee, where he has this experience, where he has the Nicodemus experience. Let me back up here. I'm just going to back up just a little bit. So I want to make sure that I'm in the right place, because there's something that's needling at me. So Jesus went to Jerusalem. All right, so he went to Jerusalem, which is in the south part. All right, so I'm back up and I'm going to read geographic here. So Jesus leaves Jerusalem, which is in the southern part of Israel, heading north through Samaria towards Galilee. Okay, so he's traveling through Samaria. We have the woman at the well. He ultimately gets back to Cana in Galilee, which is close to Nazareth, which is close to where he grew up. I mean, this is an important kind of geographical place for him. All right. And so, and just a caveat, just a side point, I want you to see this. This is about biblical study. We don't always get it right, and that's okay. We just want to make sure that we proof text ourselves and look and question. And that's exactly what I did, because I'm reading, I'm like, that, I'm going to check that. And you just go back and check it. You just go back and look at it. You go back and find it. I could have paused and cleaned it up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it in there, because I think it's important as to how we study the Bible and how I study the Bible. So, Jesus in Jerusalem for the Passover heads north up through Samaria, runs into the woman at the well, and he's there in Samaria for a couple days, and then he heads again north up to Cana in Galilee, which is up by the Sea of Galilee. Okay, Cana is not that far from the Sea of Galilee, probably looks like maybe 15 miles or so west of the Sea of Galilee is where Cana is. So then there's a man from Capernaum. Now, Capernaum is at the northern part of the Sea of Galilee. So I'm going to say maybe 20 miles, 18 miles, 20 miles from Capernaum to Galilee. And he's got a sick son. Now, he's a royal official. So this is a Jew. All right. This is either a Jew, most likely a Jew. A Jewish royal official. This is big time stuff. Remember, up to this point, Jesus has just been kind of chilling out with the dregs. So now we have a royal official who's heard about Jesus. And what we're going to see soon enough is that Jesus is going to become an outlaw. And so people like this aren't going to want to associate. But he hears that Jesus is there. And the royal official who's got a son laying ill in Capernaum. When he heard Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, he went and begged him to come down and heal his son. So this royal official knows that Jesus has this power, has heard these things. The stories grow, and these aren't just rumors, but these are tales. This is how it works. This is how the message gets out there. This is how the ministry of Jesus Christ in the Christian community grew so quickly, is because the stories grew like wildfire. They spread all over the place. This is what God wants. This is what God is desiring. So the man hears that Jesus is in town, and he knows that Jesus has some kind of power, connection, what have you. So he comes and he begs Jesus to come down and heal his son. Come down and heal his son in Capernaum, because he's at the point of death. Well, up, down, geographically, language-wise, if the son is in Capernaum, then we would understand that Jesus, it would be north of Capernaum. All right, Capernaum would be north of Cana. However, if we think about it in relation, if we think about Jerusalem as the pinnacle, the top, then everything out from Jerusalem would be down. If Jerusalem is sitting on the top of the mountain, then when you go away from Jerusalem, you go down from Jerusalem. So come down. So Capernaum is further away from Jerusalem than Cana is, which is where that linguistic reality comes from. We work north, south, east, west. We want to think north, up, south, down, west, left, east, right. But that is a very arbitrary. It's just as arbitrary as anything else. So come down and heal my son. Now Jesus' response is a little bit odd, a little bit weird for Jesus, but not really, because he's done some really good things. Now clearly, this leader has heard about Jesus enough to come and ask Jesus to heal his son. But if the point of the miracle is not restoration of life, but the point of the miracle is to proclaim the kingdom, to get the word out there, well, then the miracles have worked. Jesus is successful. He doesn't need to heal anybody else. He has been successful in the work that he has wanted to do. Because of the very fact that the official believes, has come to Jesus, the work is being done. Jesus doesn't need to do any more miracles in Cana. He has already done what he has set out to do, and that is to proclaim the kingdom and show the power of God. But here's this official coming to beg him. So notice this. So the official begs him. He went and begged him to come down and heal his son, for he was to the point of death. That's verse 47. Then Jesus said to him, unless you see signs and wonders, you will not believe. So Jesus is identifying that, look, I already showed you that God has come near, and you still want to see something else. It's like I've already shown you what I'm capable of, and you know what I'm capable of because you're here asking me for something, but you still want me to do something beyond just eliciting belief or faith. Because ultimately, the royal official wants to see his son healed. He is here to get his son healed. This isn't a faith proclamation per se. This isn't a statement of the royal official saying, I'm going to follow you and leave my religion behind. This is a statement of the royal official saying, I know that you've got power from God and my son is sick. And so I'm here to ask you to heal him. I'm here to ask you to intervene on behalf of my son. So then the official says to him again, sir, come down before my little boy dies. The official isn't deterred. And I think this is part of the lesson that we need to get when it is about the journey of faith. We want to think, and Jesus even says, ask anything in my name and I will give it to you. He doesn't say how many times we need to ask. He doesn't say anything about our persistence in faith or our perseverance in asking. This official, had he listened to Jesus, he could have just walked away and nothing would have happened. He could have shown rebuke over faith. He could have been like, well, I'm just going to storm away, which oftentimes happens. People will come to God, they will request something from God, and God will show some kind of rebuke or stance back, and they get, well, then fine, I'm out of here. But not this man. This man doesn't. This man keeps pressing. Sir, come down before my little boy dies. Sir, I know you can impact him. Please. So this royal official, and most royal officials, they usually don't take no for an answer. They usually don't get no for an answer. They usually get yes, because if you say no to a royal official, you come into the crosshairs of that royal official. So most of the time they say yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Right now, sir. But this royal official keeps pressing. This royal official doesn't give up. He doesn't stop. He asks again. He shows a level of perseverance that belies his status in the community. He begs. He begs Jesus. He begs God to intervene. He begs. And God listens. God does intervene. That's part of the play. God does listen. God does intervene. That's the difference here, is that And again, and we don't want to have a God who requires us to beg. I would never say that God's chief way of communicating with us is making us beg. But one of the things that is important for us, and I'll say this very clearly and very loudly, we are called to be humble before God. Humility is our stance, which means that when we ask God for something and we don't get it right away, our pride and arrogance is not what leads the way. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter what we've got or what degree we have or the amount of money we have. This was a royal official, and this royal official was reduced to asking a second time for something to happen. Because Jesus is not going to be moved by title or mandate or money or secular expectation. But the royal official succeeds because he humbles himself. The royal official succeeds because he humbles himself. He is willing to ask again. He is willing to ask a second time. Not just once, but twice. And because Jesus sees his willingness to humble himself, Jesus responds. Jesus acts. Now here's the thing. And here is a big, huge piece of this. Notice the royal official asked Jesus to come down, come to my house and heal my son. Wave your hands over him, look at him, touch him. Very similar to Naaman. I don't know if anybody remembers Naaman, the warrior with leprosy who goes to see the prophet Elisha, and the prophet Elisha doesn't even come out. Just sends a visitor out or a messenger out. And Naaman gets all mad because, Elisha didn't come out and do some kind of magical dance. And it's Naaman's support staff that has to talk him off the ledge, and he gets healed. So, this man wants Jesus to come down to his house, come to my house. And Jesus just says to him, go, your son will live. Go, your son will live. Get out of here, your son's going to live. So Jesus isn't going to make the trip. Jesus isn't going to come down and do anything physical. Jesus just says, go, your son will live. Okay, so two really important things here. First one is that Jesus can wield the power of God. Jesus can enact the power of God without actually being physically present in the space or with the person. Jesus can do something away from himself that can have a positive impact. So the miracle here, twofold. One is that Jesus heals. So Jesus has the power to design creation to be whole, but Jesus can also do this from a distance. He can do it from a distance. He can do it away from. And how can he do it away from? How can Jesus enact this power without being present? We find that to be hard to because we're very empirical in our understanding of the world. So if we can't taste it, touch it, see it, hear it, or feel it, we don't really believe it. So here's Jesus doing this work. How can Jesus know so intimately what was going on? Not because Jesus is teleporting himself to the circumstance or teleporting himself into the moment, but because he is relying on the knowledge of the Father and the faith of the Father, the child's father, not the Father in heaven. Both that too, but it's really about the faith of the child's father. The faith of the child's father and the knowledge of the child's father. Jesus doesn't need to figure this child out. Jesus just needs to look into the Father to understand his boy, which we know Jesus can do because he just did it with the woman at the well. I would keep wanting to call her the Syrophoenician woman, and that's not true. So please forgive me if I do that. Jesus has the capability of looking into someone because we saw him do that with the woman at the well. So if he can do that with the woman at the well, he can do that with this man whose little child is dying. And he knows full well that the little child is dying because he can look into the man and see that that's the case. He can also look into the man and see the full panoply of what this child is about and who this child is. Jesus can use, and not use in a terrible or bad way, but Jesus can rely on the faith and knowledge of the Father in order to understand the Son. And then through the faith and knowledge of the Father, Jesus can heal the Son from a distance, remotely. And that's what he does. He says to the Father, your son is well. Go, he's going to live. That's the first part. So how, when we talk about prayer, even in our own lives today, Even when we can't fully express and put into words what's going on in our lives and what's going on in our prayer, Jesus knows, because Jesus knows us. Jesus can see inside of us, into our inner self, into our inner being. So first we have the remoteness of Jesus' capability of reading into someone and knowing what's going on inside of them, knowing what their need is, even when they can't articulate it. I cannot tell you how comforting that is for me. I cannot tell you how much of a relief that is for me. I mean, I have a pretty good command of the language that I speak. I feel that I'm not a PhD level command of the language. I continue to hear fascinating words every day that I want to incorporate into my vocabulary. But I feel that I have a pretty good command of the language, and I feel I have a pretty good command of the words, of emotion and experience around that language. And there are still times, even within the midst of that, when I struggle with putting to words what's going on in my heart, or what's going on in my mind, or what's going on in my life. I struggle because it's as if the language it's limited. It's very limited. Even the language in my head is limited. If I'm putting everything into words sometimes just don't do it. Words sometimes just fail. So to know that God loves me and is able to lean into me and see into my inner being and see and kind of grasp where I'm at, even if I can't put it into words, is so comforting for me, because that allows me to reside. It allows me to exist. It allows me to say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to let you in, God, and I'm not going to try to put words into it. I'm just going to let you see it. I'm just going to let you take it for what it is, and I'm going to let you love me for what it is, and I'm going to love you for what it is. So knowing that Jesus has this capability to look into us, and I don't want to go about mind reading or thought reading, because that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is the maker, the creator, the one who made us is drawing us in and really kind of drawing out of us who we are and what we've got and what we need and what we want and where we're going. This is a very different thing. So Jesus says, go, your son will live. All right. So, there's this remote healing circumstance, and the man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and started on his way. Now, keep in mind, this is a royal official who's come a good distance, probably a couple days away, because we see that in the next portion of the reading. He has left his son, who is ill at the point of death, to seek out Jesus. He has found Jesus. He is persuading Jesus to come back to his house to heal his son. But then Jesus sends him on his way with the promise that the son would be healed. And notice, the man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him. The man left. The man headed back home. He was satisfied. He believed that Jesus had the capability of healing remotely, to the point where he's like, okay, I'm in. I've got it. I've bought it. I don't need to see this. This is another powerful aspect of faith. Things are going to happen that we ask for that we don't see. We're going to ask God to move in our lives or in the lives of someone else, and we don't see it. And if we don't see it, we still have to trust and believe that God is working with us, putting that humility in place and putting that pride aside. When we ask God to protect us, God's probably already protecting us from things that we don't even know about. And that's because God is protecting us from them. So this man asked Jesus to heal his son, and Jesus remotely sent the healing out. And the man believed him, believed in the words of Jesus, and started for home. He came all this way to get Jesus to come back, but Jesus just spoke the words, and the man believed him. How powerful is this? He didn't need proof. He didn't need to see Jesus lay his hands on the boy. He believed him. So this man is risking everything, because he could get back home and he could find his son dead. He could find that Jesus' words didn't mean anything. He came all the way up here for this magic healer, and this magic healer just said it was going to happen. But it didn't. And by the time the official figures it out, Jesus is going to be long gone. Again, Jesus is on the move. Remember that. So Jesus is going to be long gone by this point. So the man trusted the words of Jesus, even if Jesus wasn't physically there. Again, there's another connotation of faith. We have Jesus telling us these things, and we trust even when we can't see. We trust that God's word is true, and we trust what the word tells us even when we can't see it. Because when we trust, my friends, when we trust, that's when God can move for us. But not until we trust. If we want proof, then we're never going to get it. Never going to get it. Again, remember what I said in the beginning about miracles. Miracles are about the proclamation of faith. We are the miracle in the world today. All right, so as he was going down, his slaves met him, told him that his child was alive. So now their slaves, and again, remember, this is a royal official. He's got a big household. There are slaves coming in the opposite direction, looking for the master, with this good news that the child is alive, with this good news that something has happened. So now the question is, was this natural or supernatural? So the man asks, when did the tide turn? When, at what hour did he begin to recover? Because, he could have been recovering for days. He could have been recovering 5 hours before the man saw Jesus. He could have been recovering 8 hours after the man saw Jesus. Notice, because we say that it's yesterday at 1 p.m, the fever left him. Midday, yesterday. So clearly, the man had been away at least a day's journey, probably 2 days' journey from his home. And they would have been working on a Roman Jewish calendar and time of day. So, maybe this is a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit more westernized, this translation, talk about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But we get the point that it happened midday. It happened during the day, during the brightness of day. And it happened the day before. So this man was far away from home. He had journeyed greatly, but he also trusted. And he wanted to know when. When did it happen? Because if this is Jesus, I know when I talk to Jesus, and Jesus said this is when this is going to happen, I want to know. And they said yesterday about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's when the man realizes, the father realizes, that this was the hour when Jesus had said to him, your son will live. So this was the work of Jesus. This healing, this boy is healed by the work of Jesus. Jesus is the one who is at play in healing this boy. Jesus is the one who does this. This is Jesus. And the man is able to say, I'm able to identify that this is Jesus. Now, here is another big connotation, and another big thing that I want to make sure that I talk about. When we go to God, especially in time of crisis or need or pain or struggle, when we go to God, it is very hard to see God at work in the moment. It is very hard to see the new life in the midst of the storm. Okay? Let's be honest about that. We all know how that is. We all know that when we're in the midst of the moment, holding on to that tree stump while the water is rushing by us and we're crying out to God, it's very hard to see God at that moment. But when we look back later, we can see God's hand at work. When we look back in places of calm, in places of balance, we can see how God worked in that moment. Even when we believe in that moment that God is working, we can't always see it in that moment. Hence the same thing with the Father. The Father believed Jesus' words, believed that his son would be healed. The Father believed that it was all going to work out. The Father left Jesus believing that it was all going to work out. He did that with full faith, but he had no availability of proof until the next day. The availability of proof came to him the next day when he interacted with his slaves, and his slaves told him that his son was getting better, that the fever had broken. And was after that, the man asked when, at what time did the fever break? And the slave said at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, when the man knew that he was talking to Jesus. This then elicits the conviction of his faith, the conviction of what he believed. So he believed Jesus enough to leave him without taking Jesus back with him. But then when he got home, or when he found out, his conviction was made true. His faith was made true. His faith in Jesus was verified. So he himself believed along with his household. And that's how it worked. The head of the household believed, everybody believed. So now you don't just have a Roman official believing in Jesus, or an official believing in Jesus. We don't know if he's Roman or not. We just know he's a royal official. We're not sure what royal family he's from, but we have a royal and his entire household believing in the power of Jesus. This is how the mission exponentially grows. So this is a really fascinating interaction. There's a lot of things here that we see that really have strong basis even in our faith today. How can we trust that God knows what's going on inside of us? Well, God shows it. Jesus shows that he can intuitively understand what's going on inside of us, what's happening inside of us. How can Jesus remotely work? Doesn't Jesus have to be on site? No, Jesus doesn't. That's the thing about the power of God. It doesn't work that way. And you know what? We can't always see it in the moment. We can't always see in the moment God working on our lives. Sometimes we have to trust that there is work going on and we can't see it, but it will come to us anyway. We will experience it at some point, some way, somehow, somewhere. That's what we get out of this. And it's beautiful and it's incredible that God would show us a glimpse of such glory and praise. Now, this was the second sign that Jesus did after coming from Judea to Galilee. Again, in John, signs and miracles are one, okay? The Synoptic Gospels call them miracles. For John, they're signs of Jesus' power. This is the sign of Jesus' power over creation. This is an example of Jesus' power over creation, healing someone, turning water into wine. And we're going to keep going on. Jesus is going to show all of these signs to convince more and more people that he has this power, this ability, so that more and more people will follow him, pay attention to him. So when the crucifixion and resurrection happens, it makes sense. And people are able to grasp it on a much more fundamental, deeper level. All right, my friends, that's what I got for you today. That's the long and the short of it for the day. And I know there's a lot in there. I know I threw a lot at you, both biblically and life of faith today. And really, look, if we can't apply this stuff to our lives today, then why bother in the first place? If these words don't mean anything to us, if they don't affect us, if we can't put ourselves into the living text, then why bother reading them to start with? It doesn't make any sense. They're nothing more than really cool tales. We could read these next to Harry Potter or next to the Tolkien texts. But they're more than that. We are called and we are encouraged to put ourselves in this and understand how these words can continue to have an impact on us today and in the days to come. So that's what we got. That's where we're at. Like always, my friends, I'm happy that you're here. Share this out if it helps. Share this out if it has an effect for you. My contact information will come up at the end of the session. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to ask me. I'll do the best I can to get it, either answer back to you or get it into the next session, so that I can kind of cover what's going on. But feel free to reach out in any way that you can. Hey, God bless you today. God bless you with whatever you got going on. And we'll see you. Well, actually, we won't see you, but we'll hear you. We'll talk to you next time.